I once heard a motivational speaker lament, "What a shame it is that failures don't get caught, because there's so much you could learn from them if they did." 5 years ago, I was living the dream. I had a waiting list chiropractic practice that was earning over $2,500 a week while working only part-time hours. I had just published my very first book, and I was getting ready to write my second. I thought my future was unstoppable. Then the insurance industry completely rewrote all the rules. Literally overnight, my practice was decimated. My income quickly dwindled to less than 10% of what it had been. I spent the next 16 months desperately looking for other work as I frantically struggled to avoid the looming foreclosures and tax sales. Finally, after sending out more than 80 resumes, only 3 of which ever turned into interviews, in contacting more than 50 publishers with my second book, none of whom had any interest in it whatsoever, I found work in a completely different field, accounting, working twice as many hours for less than half the pay I had grown accustomed to. Nearly 25 years worth of intensive study, blood, sweat, and tears dedicated to my chiropractic career completely flushed away. And yet, in losing everything, I received a gift unlike any other. Perhaps the second greatest gift I've ever been given. Your ability to hope and dream is instilled in you at birth and represents your connection to your source, to God, to the universe. Your hopes and dreams give direction, meaning, and purpose to your life. They are your raison d'etre, your reason for being, sometimes referred to as your divine design, your primary purpose, and your life mission. Author Paulo Coelho calls it your personal legend. Pixar's WALL-E calls it your prime directive. The Roman philosophers and poets, Cicero, Horace, and Virgil, refer to it as your afflatus. Literally, your inspiration direct from the breath of God. Sometimes, when we follow our afflatus and pursue our dreams, things go smoothly. Oftentimes, they do not. Life can be a very fickle and formidable mistress. St. John of the Cross wrote in great length back in 1578 about a phenomena that he referred to as the dark night of the soul, where basically what worked before for you no longer does, and you feel abandoned, and like all spiritual blessing is over for you in this lifetime. He states, the soul must be reduced to a state of emptiness, poverty, and abandonment, and must be left dry and empty and in darkness. God is purging this soul, annihilating it, emptying it, or consuming in it all of the affections and imperfect habits which it has contracted in its whole life, he said. Here, God greatly humbles the soul in order that he may afterwards greatly exalt it. In the works of Mencius, back in the 4th century BC, 1900 years prior to St. John, the Confucian philosopher Mencius states, trials and hardships are the way heaven prepares men for great services. When heaven is about to confer a great office on any man, it first exercises his mind with great suffering, and so supplies his incompetencies. Khalil Gibran, the author of The Prophet, back in 1923 says, For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. All of these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart. Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. In the Bible, after Job loses everything of value to him, his health, his wealth, his reputation, and even his family, he cries out, "And I am reduced to dust and ashes," where dust and ashes were symbolic for great humiliation and insignificance, a process I refer to as the zero's journey. When all was said and done, the casualties from my personal zero's journey were very high. My identities as a doctor, business owner, provider for my family, and contributor to my community were completely erased. My prestige for having graduated in the top 5% of my class in chiropractic school, a class of over 230 students that had been deemed the most academically astute class to come down the pike in many years, was rendered completely meaningless. I lost my chosen livelihood and my cherished lifestyle. I lost all of my wealth and most of my wealth-making capability. But the biggest loss I suffered by far was the colossal loss of time available to spend with the love of my life, my wife, Lisa. Meeting Lisa was the greatest gift I ever received. We did everything together. She was by my side throughout chiropractic school and the office manager for my now failed practice. We parented together, shopped together. We even shared a single vehicle for most of our 25 years together. And while some might have found the amount of time we once spent together excessive, neither of us could have desired or wished for it to be any other way. It's all we could have imagined. Lisa ultimately found work as the office manager for a busy medical practice 12 months before I found my position in accounting, forcing her to work long 10 to 12-hour days apart from me in order to earn in a day what I was once capable of generating for us in under an hour's time. People who suffered the amputation of a limb commonly report experiencing what are known as phantom limb pains, where they experience extreme pain in the area just beyond where the limb has been amputated, as though the severed limb is still attached to their body, even though it is gone. I can only begin to describe the very real, physical, emotional, and spiritual pain that I felt following this drastic reduction with Lisa as being akin to phantom limb pain. I could still feel her presence, as though she were still by my side, but she was nowhere to be found. Any further attempts to put into words the indescribable pain and anguish this caused to my soul would be impossible to meaningfully convey. Suffice it to say that I wished very earnestly, on more than one occasion, to be returned to sender, so to speak. At least if I could have died. Through the prospect of life insurance proceeds, I would have once again been able to provide for the needs of my family. Lao Tzu, Chinese philosopher and founder of Taoism, states, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." I believe he is talking here about our attachments, our outward clinging of the Spirit, as St. John of the Cross called it. St. John of the Cross viewed the dark night of the soul as a gift from God, designed specifically to free us from our attachments. Meister Eckhart, German theologian and mystic who lived 300 years prior to St. John of the Cross, believed the only function of hell was to burn away the part of you that won't let go of your life, your attachments. He saw it as a means of freeing your soul. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that our attachments are one of the primary causes of all suffering, referring to them as poisons or fires. While it felt like dying while still alive, the gift contained in the Zero's Journey is exactly the same one all of these authors are speaking of. Our attachments to our accomplishments, to our identities, labels, and titles, to outcomes, people, and things, limit and imprison our souls. When we let go of our rigidly held, limited ideas about who we think we are, we start to see far more similarities than differences among us all. Out of great humiliation and insignificance, the seeds of loving compassion can take root and bloom. Perhaps through the kindness extended by a stranger, hope can reemerge. The cavalry may not have come, bugles blaring to save the day. But a gentle touch, a warm smile, a non-judgmental acceptance and reassurance can be life-saving to someone. The phoenix that arises from the ashes of loss, suffering, humiliation, and despair is one that readily recognizes the suffering of others and is no longer capable of sitting idly by in indifference. When it comes right down to it, we are all alone. And most of what happens to us happens by chance. The best way to improve your chances is by actively working to improve the chances for someone else. If you want to have your prayers answered, start answering the prayers for others. If each of us did this for one another, perhaps all of our prayers might actually get answered one day. The Golden Rule tells us to treat others the way we would like to have them treat us. This is the golden rule each of us must play in the lives of one another. Aristotle believed in a process called entelechy. Life demands that you follow your afflatus, pursue your dreams so you can become who you were meant to be. Whether you actually succeed or not is irrelevant. Their real value comes as a result of who they nudge you to become while in their pursuit. A human becoming awakened to loving compassion for themselves and one another. And who you become can never be taken away from you unless you voluntarily surrender such by giving up on life. If you fail to realize your afflatus, if your dreams do not come true, you can always dream another dream. You can always start anew. And just maybe, perhaps broken dreams provide some of the best fertilizer to the seeds of loving compassion lying dormant in each and every one of us. When you finish this video, go out and find 3 people currently lost on their own Zero's journey. People living with broken dreams, suffering in silence, crying themselves to sleep at night, all alone, wondering if it's even worthwhile to go on living. You won't have to go very far to find them. They're your friends and family members, your neighbors and co-workers, that stranger you pass every day on the way to and from work. Whoever they are, go seek them out. Don't judge them or the circumstances you find them in. As my wife puts it so eloquently, true compassion is understanding that darkness is darkness, without judging the circumstances that turned out the light. Simply love them. Let them know they're not alone. Assure them it's going to be okay. Tell them they are going to be okay. Without your love and encouragement, they might never be inspired to dream another dream, to start anew. What a tragic loss that would be for all of us. Our dreams are not just for us. They're given to each of us for the benefit of all of us, for the benefit of humanity. And if you are currently in the midst of your own zeros journey, I want you to know that you are loved. I love you. You're not alone. I know what it's like to follow a dream, to give it your all, and to still come up short anyway, time and time and time again. This talk is a prime example. Over the past year, I have applied to speak it 7 different times at 4 separate TEDx events, only to be rejected each and every single time. If I can dream another dream, if I can start anew, you can too. It's going to be okay. You are going to be okay. Now let's go dream another dream.